All right. So the thing about Pep, this has been talked about before about that next move for Pep. And has he, to your point, already conquered the club world, and therefore the international part might be his next mountain to climb. And certainly if he wants to climb a mountain, the U.S. team could be one of it. It would have been interesting. Well, first off, does he price himself out of teams like the U.S.? Or does he do it from a much more altruistic, charitable, I guess it would be, at least from a compensation standpoint, does he come at it where he says, I'm not going to make as much money and I'm okay with that, but I want the challenge? You could say that sometimes Pep seems like a guy who is searching for that challenge. And that would certainly be a challenge. It would have been interesting, like I said, had he been part of the conversation or available or possible when Greg Berhalter was rehired. I will say, and every international coach will tell you, it is a very, very different animal, especially for a coach like Pep, who is so hands-on and so anal about everything, but he needs control. And one thing that you don't have control, or you have much less of it, is when you are an international coach. Because as we mentioned earlier in this podcast, your time is so limited. So it would be fascinating to see Pep have to distill down to its essence and its most basic and most important form whatever message it is he wants to impart on these players. Because he has day in and day out to grind them, if you will, in a club setting. And he doesn't have that if he would be an international coach. So just because he was a great club coach doesn't necessarily mean he would be a great international coach. But I'm here for it. I would love to check it out and see what he wanted. As it pertains to your MLS question, first off, I would push back in that I actually believe that there's lots of players that want to come to the United States or to North America. All right? I don't think that's the problem. As a matter of fact, I think that's the advantage that North America has over most places around the world, in that there is already baked in and built in a desire to come and live, and in this case, it would be live and work for the players and for their families in what I feel is the greatest country in the world, and in a place that provides, for them and their families, all the different things that we talk about, whether it's, education, medical, social, all the different things that we have. So I already think that that's happening. To your point that they can't and won't get paid as much, yeah, that's true. Unless you're a Messi, you're not going to get paid as much as you could make in many European situations. And let's be honest, in terms of what Saudi Arabia and others are offering for you there. That is going to change, but that is sure as hell not going to change overnight. So that's not going to happen.
The only thing I'll say on Pep, I'd be curious to know what guys like Pep and Klopp and Ancelotti and Mourinho think of the U.S.'s talent right now. Yes, it's a challenge, but do they think that you could conceivably win a World Cup with the players the U.S. has now, or it would be mission impossible? Because those guys are all winners, and they're not going to take a job unless they think there's at least the possibility of winning the ultimate prize. So I would be curious to know what those guys think of the talent the U.S. has now and the talent coming up, and sort of where the U.S. is at as a soccer nation.
But this isn't taking over the 50th ranked team in the world or something where there's absolutely no chance. And we know, just in general, there's only a handful of teams that have ultimately won the World Cup. So winning the World Cup is difficult in and of itself. But I don't think it's ridiculous. I don't think that this is, we talked to Thomas Rongen over the break. I don't think that this is a Thomas Rongen type of situation where you're taking a small island and has absolutely no chance of ever winning the World Cup. So I think it would be appealing to those because it's enough quality where things can happen, but it's not obviously the elite level. And as we said before, the pressure would be less, but the opportunity, I guess the ROI would be so much greater for someone like Pep to do it with the U.S. as opposed to doing it with others. So maybe that excites him. Maybe that floats his boat, as it might others, in terms of that challenge that is the U.S., where it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, even though it has never been done before. You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.